Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Senator, Deputy Speaker, Congressman Ralph. Good morning, sir. Good morning po.
Good morning, Ted, Lourd. Thank you for having me. Nice to be in your program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Lourd.
Nagkasabay kayo sa Kongreso, Manong Ted at Senator Ralph.
12th, ano yun?
Nagkasabay kami, but he was in the House, I was in the Senate.
12th Congress.
Opo. Ito nga, ang ganda ng valedictory speech ni Senator Ralph nung siya yung nagpaalam sa Senado. Sabi niya, 30 years ago, pumasok daw siya sa Senado sa Kongreso na totoy. Ngayon, pagbalik niya, tito na siya.
And 30 pounds ago.
30 pounds ago.
Opo. Thank you, sir. May tanong po si Lourd tungkol po sa ating pambansang budget. Go ahead, Lourd.
For the past several days,
Thank you.
si Deputy House Speaker Ralph Recto ay pinapaliwanag po niya kung bakit kine-question po niya yung 588 plus na sinasabing yung unprogrammed funds. Kahapon po, naglabas po ng pahayag ang kalihim po ng Budget Department, sir. At sinasabi niya na wala naman daw bago dito at napaliwanag naman daw at hindi naman daw yung buong 588 mapupunta sa kung ano-anong gagamitin. At sabi nila, despite your explanation na hindi ka tanggap-tanggap na isang pahina lang lahat itong mga or one-liners itong mga items sa ito, kayo ho ba, Congressman Ralph, ay satisfied sa kanyang paliwanag?
Totally hindi. Dahil alam ni Ted yan. Alam ni Ted, dahil siya naging congressman, ang budget natin siguro mga one foot or more. Okay, without the annexes, ha?
Opo.
So, ilang libong pahina yan para pag-usapan yung program fund na 5.2 trillion. Okay? Ngayon, meron isang pahina doon or one page, ito yung kopya ng one page na yan, na 580 billion. Okay? So, anong detalye ang meron dito? Ha? Meron dito 300... nakasulat dito, 375 billion support to foreign assisted projects. Okay. At yung mga foreign assisted project na to, mga railway ba to? Anong connection nito? Saan i-connect to? What railways are these? Is this from La Union to Legazpi? Di ba? Ano ba yung mga proyekto ifa-fund natin dito, in effect? Di ba? So, palagay ko hindi ka tanggap-tanggap na 588 billion, one page lang.
Opo. Siguro magandang tanong dyan, Senator Deputy Speaker Ralph, is ano ba danger? No? What's the danger kapag hinayaan lang natin to at hindi nila maitama itong binabanggit nyo na dapat itemized yan? Go ahead, sir.
Well, number one, kung hindi kung hindi line item yan, hindi transparent. No? And if it is not transparent, it is prone to abuse. That's one. No? Pangalawa, by insisting that we line item the budget, it will be easier for the executive, for the administration to implement, to execute the budget. Okay? Kung lump sum yan, ibig sabihin wala silang listahan. Hindi alam kung anong gagawin. Okay? Kaya during the budget execution, doon pa lang nila iisipin, ila-line item din naman nila yan. What particular projects will we be implementing? So kung yan hindi naka-line item, hindi sila handa to implement the project.
Pwede ho bang i-argue, Congressman, na in theory, sinasabi niya po, you're not against it, pero mas gusto nilang mas detalyado. Pero pwede bang sabihin na, wala pa naman, ito lang naman yung gagamitin natin in the event of
kailanganin
emergency at mayroon tayong excess.
Hindi naman emergency to. This is not an emergency. This has nothing to do with the emergency. Okay? In the program fund, meron tayong contingent fund. In the program fund, meron tayo, pag may sakuna, may budget tayo linalagay doon. Di ba? Lump sum, yun. Naintindihan natin yun. That is for, hindi naman natin kung saan magkakaroon ng earthquake o saan yung bagyo. Di ba? Pero alam natin, may quick response fund tayo, meron tayong funding for mga sakuna. No? Itong unprogrammed, basically, this is a standby authority for the President to spend and to borrow. Okay? So, essentially, the budget is roughly 5.28 trillion. If you add the 580 plus billion unprogrammed, then the budget is roughly 5.8 trillion. Okay? At sinasabi natin dito, pinapayagan din natin ang Pangulo na umutang ng dagdag 580 billion. Now, in the past, hindi ganyan kalaki ang mga unprogrammed. Okay? In fact, this year, siguro mga 200, 250 lang yan. At sadyang ginagastos na yan. Okay? Even in the past administrations, may unprogrammed, detalyado, at ginagastos yan. Okay?
So,
dito,
opo.
there is nothing wrong for Congress to ask for details saan gagamitin itong 580 billion.
Yes, sir. Opo. For lack of any appropriate word now, Congressman, Senator, sir, parang pork barrel siya, na lump sum nga.
You know, the Supreme Court frowns on lump sum.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Opo.
May decision na Supreme Court na dapat i-line item yan. Di ba?
Opo.
And the reason for that, like I said, is so that there is more transparency.
Okay.
Now, like I said earlier, it will benefit the administration and the executive if it were line item. Kung lump sum yan, ibig sabihin, hindi pa nila alam kung anong gagawin nila dyan.
Okay. So,
if they cannot provide a list, that means they're not prepared. Okay, so we are assisting the administration. Remember, the idea is to grow the economy at 7% for the next 6 years to reduce poverty incidence to 9%. Diba? Yun ang game plan.
Okay.
To cut poverty incidence by half. And you can only do that if we can grow the economy by 7% on the average sustainably. To be able to do that with a flat budget, with a conservative budget, then you have to extend every peso and make sure that we're able to appropriate properly and execute the budget. Madali yung authorization.
Okay.
Yung execution ang mahirap.
Yes, sir. Apo, mamaya po puntahan natin yung execution na yan. But meantime, what do you think po, Deputy Speaker, as ito pong inyong pagsusuri na ito ay napakaganda nga, no? Para ho masiguro natin na ang pera ng bayan ay mapapangalagaan at may pupuntahan talaga at itemized, transparent. Susunod kaya sila dito o baka kayo daanin po sa in the end, botohan na lang po kung sino pabor hindi dito?
Palagay ko, magsasabit din yan. Sumulat din ako sa DBM. At yan, tatanungin din sa Senado yan. Galing ako doon. Okay. Kami taon-taon, tinatanong namin sa Senado yan eh.
Okay.
Every year, tinatanong namin sa Senado yan, inaayos natin yan in the Senate.
Opo. So
kayo nandito ako sa House, tinaayos natin yan, yes.
So kayo mismo, hindi kayo papayag na hindi ito idetalye ng DBM?
It is to their benefit na idetalye nila.
Okay.
So I am confident that they will submit the details.
Okay. Sir, as you notice ho naman and as you know, ang DPWH budget, no, yung for infrastructure, binawasan ho naman actually ng 68 billion. All right. Pero kung inyo pong pinag-aralan din ang 2021 COA report, lumalabas nga po na sa kabuuang budget nila, actually po meron pong 47.4 billion doon na wala pong napaglaanan na proyekto. And then, dito po sa kanilang pinaglaanan na 662 billion pesos, ayon po sa COA report 60.97% lamang ang meron pong actual na nagasta. Meaning, December 31 last year, meron pang 258.4 billion na pondong nakalaan for DPWH na hindi po nila nagasta. Ano po ang inyong munang reaksyon doon? At ngayon po, bagamat binawasan ng kanilang budget, mukha pong yung kanila pong underspending, klaro naman.
Yes. Dalawang bagay yan, Ted. No? Maraming who confuse obligation and disbursement. Okay? Pag sinabi mong obligate, na bid out mo yung project. Pag nasabi mong na-disburse, binayaran mo na, nagawa yung project, or may progress billing yan, binabayaran ba yung mga project na ginagawa. Di ba? Okay, now. Sa budget natin, when we say disbursement nga pala, hindi ibig sabihin yung cash na ginastos mo is for the budget this year alone. Kasi may mga previous years na may accounts payable ka. Okay? Now, Um, One of the reasons why the DPWH would not be able to obligate 100% or most of its budget or a significant amount of it is because of lump sums also. Maraming lump sum pa rin sa program fund din. In fact, ang identified po, mga 400 billion eh. Now, hindi ba naman ma-itemize lahat yan? No? Halimbawa, may mga general fund yan, mga feasibility studies, detailed engineering budget, di ba? May mga right of way, di ba? So, maaring hindi lahat yan nala-line item yan. But as much as possible, if you want to execute the budget as fast, as efficient, as economical, as effective as possible, then you line item the budget.
Opo. Pero yung
program and program. Mas maraming detalye sa program kaysa sa unprogram. Like I said, the budget is what? 1 foot or 2 feet, 24 inches. Ilang pahina yon? Ilang pages yon? That's 5.2 trillion. Diba? 5.3 to 580.
Opo.
Bakit one page lang yung 580 billion sa unprogram, di ba?
Yes, sir. Itong punto ko dito sa DPWH budget nga, kasi like sa agriculture, nagdagdagan po naman ng 52 billion. Opo. And maging sa DOH, 29 billion. Bagamat nabawasan po yung DSWD ng 8 billion. So, hindi ho ba't sa laki ng underspending supposed to be as reported rin by COA sa DPWH, ano hong basa ho ninyo dito sa pagkakalatag po ng executive sa proposed budget nila? Kayo ho ba ay kakalikot para ho ilipat ang pondo for infrastructure na baka hindi magasta at madala for agriculture, for example?
Kaya maganda magpa-interview sa'yo, Ted, dahil alam mo eh. Nanggaling ka na rin sa Kongreso eh. So having said that, yes, and that is the normal events naman na ginagawa ng Kongreso, especially in the Senate, di ba? Many realignments are done also in the Senate, no? And tinitignan natin dyan yung absorptive capacity ng mga agencies, kaya ba nilang gastusin? More so today dahil this will be the first year of our economic recovery from the pandemic. No, all the more dapat masinop tayo sa paggastos ng pera ng taong bayan, di ba? First natin ito eh. So, titignan natin ano yung last year's budget nila, ano yung mga increases, decreases, sino yung naka-perform last year, sino yung hindi naka-perform last year. Titignan natin yung mga report, no? Kung may mga abuso ba, katulad ng pagta-transfer ng pondo sa PITC, sa PSDBM, hindi dapat yun. Yan, dapat pagbawali na natin yun. Maglagay tayo ng general provision sa budget tungkol doon na hindi na pwede pasabay.
Opo.
Which makes it appear that funds were obligated when in fact hindi. At nandun lang sa mga ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan so that the department where the funds were originally appropriated can escape responsibility and accountability.
Opo. So, sir, ito hong sa kabuuan, Lourd, ilang percent yung pong for debt payment sa kabuuan pong budget, Congressman? My point here is that ano ba ang macro assumption nitong executive sa ating pong dollar exchange rate by next year? Kasi tama ba, Lourd? Ilang percent? 10? 11?
11.6.
11.6% daw ang para sa debt servicing sa pambansang budget. Meron ho bang ano bang sabi po dito? Kasi as of yesterday, 56.20 na ang palitan po ng dolyar.
Ako, alam mo, nadaanan ko, sabi nga ni Lourd kanina, 30 years na rin tayo sa Kongreso, no, sa House at sa NEDA at sa Senado. No? Nung in the 90s, ang interest expense natin sa debt was 30% of the budget. Ganun kalaki. Today, we are much better off. It's down to 11 to 12%. Although interest rates are rising, and the exchange rate is depreciating, so tataas yan moving forward. No? Do you know that in the next 6 years, based on the macroeconomic plan, roughly the Marcos administration will be spending 37 trillion. Okay? In the next 6 years, 23 to 2028, the revenues we will generate is 30 trillion, more or less. Ang utang natin today is 14 trillion. You add 7 trillion, magiging 21 trillion. Okay? But the size of the economy by that time will roughly be also 37 trillion. Okay? So the debt to GDP ratio will more or less be the same as where we are today. Debt to GDP, 15 trillion roughly today 13 trillion yung utang natin, 13 to 14. Ang economy natin mga 21 trillion. So roughly 60%. By 2028, more or less 60% din yan yung debt to GDP. Okay? Based on the plan, no? That assumes we grow 7% every year for the next 6 years to reduce poverty incidence to 9% without the debt ballooning to, in the past, our debt to GDP hit almost 100%.
Opo.
Okay, so we come a long way as far as that is concerned, no? But what is more important now is how do we make the economy grow by 7%? Sustainably for the next 6 years to reduce poverty incidence by half to 9%. And it starts with a good budget because the government is roughly 20-25% of the total economy. And remember, our budget next year is flat. Essentially, walang growth. In fact, baka negative pa because of inflation.
Opo, yun nga po sir, yun ang kanilang macro assumption, ano po. Pero
Yes.
Considering nga po na ngayon hindi ka makapasiguro ang inflation natin last quarter, including next year with all of these things happening now, paano kaya ito, sir? Paano po ang inyong Go ahead, sir.
It will be very challenging, no? And this is not only in the Philippines, global to. Gawa ng COVID, yung mga continuing lockdown. Syempre, during the pandemic, for the last 2 years, walang masyadong reinvestment. Kaya nagkaroon ng problema ng mga supply, di ba? Hanggang ngayon, may lockdown sa China. Tapos, nagkaroon pa ng gera sa Ukraine, tumaas ang langis, may supply shocks. And then, of course, we know that the Western economies printed a lot of money to create demand. So all of this now is coming back to roost, no? And that's why you have inflation, no? Now, in the Philippine context, mabuti naman that the president decided to focus on agriculture dahil karamihan ng inflation natin nasa pagkain. We are a food insecure country, no? We import a lot of the food that we eat. So tingin ko dyan, we can grow more. We can increase our productivity. So I welcome the increase in the budget of the Department of Agriculture or the entire agriculture sector to include agrarian reform. So the budget next year is roughly 175 billion for the agri sector. 44% increase lahat yan, no? More or less, no? So I welcome that, and hopefully we can increase our productivity so that inflation goes down and we do not import too much of the food requirements that we need. Kasi baka later on magkaroon ng hirapan dyan. May drought ngayon sa China. Okay? So yung production ng pagkain nila, bababa din yan. So ano mangyayari dyan? They will be buying from the rest of the world din. Yung import nila, malamang tataas din yan. So tataas ang presyo. Diba? So kaya yan ang paghandaan natin. And that's why I'm saying, importante ma-increase din natin yung productivity of our agriculture sector.
But that will all depend sa bilis ng pagpapatupad ng mga programa at paggasta ng perang ilalaan po ninyo. Opo, di ho ba? Magdidepende. Ano ba ang danger?
Yes. Yeah. Halimbawa, sa agriculture, nakita ko sa budget 40 billion sa irrigation. I welcome that. Okay. Although wala sa budget yung detalye kung saan lalagay yung irrigation na 40 billion. Yan ba, may listahan na ba sila o pag-iisipan yan during budget execution pa? Di madedelay yung budget. Di ba? Farm to market roads, 14 billion. Wala rin ako nakita sa budget yung listahan na saan ilalagay yung farm to market roads na yan. Di ba? So better i-line item nila yan so that maliwanag kung saan nila gagasusin at handa na silang i-execute yung budget. Yun ang sinasabi ko. It is to their benefit so that we can spend the budget faster as well.
Singit lang ako. Sorry binanggit yung key magic word, spend. You would think that spending would be the easiest thing to do in the world. Pero i-share nyo nga sa amin, Congressman Recto, kung saan ba talaga nagkakaproblema. Bibigyan kunyari yung sinasabi ng spending capacity, bibigyan mo ng malaking pondo isang ahensya, pero at the end of the year, meron ka malalaman na meron palang 870 mga ganong bilyon na hindi nagamit ng mga pondo. Tapos eto ka, ordinaryong mamamayan, ang sama-sama ng loob mo, naghahanap ka ng gusto mong magpagamot na wala kang mahanapan na pondo. Gusto mong mag-aral lang anak mo, wala siyang maano na eskwelahan kasi walang pondo. Yet, ganito pala yung sumusobrang mga pondo. Sa ano ba nagkaka-issue? Bukod, alam po natin, may burokrasya po, no? May red tape, posibleng red tape. Pero sa ano ba nagkaka-problema pagdating sa paggastos?
Unang-una, ulitin ko lang unang-una, planning the budget properly. Right? So, kailangan, as much as possible, i-line item mo para alam mo kung saan mo gagastusin. Kasi kung di mo alam saan mo gagastusin, paano mo gagastusin? Kung lump sum yan. Di ba? So, yun ang unang-una. That is the first. Okay? Pangalawa, halimbawa, bakit ang DOTR lagi may problema? Ang laki-laki ng budget. Yun ang pinakamalaking problema. Sa lahat ng ahensya, sa totoo lang, matagal na dapat tayo may mga trend. In fact, dati meron tayo na wala pa nga. Okay? So, the point is, ilan ba engineer meron sila? They don't have the right people in the right place in the department. How many engineers do they have? Di ba? Kaya ba nilang gumawa ng plano? O lahat ba yan ina-outsource natin?
Congressman Ralph, alam ko po, kailangan nyo po mag-out by 9 a.m., no? At,
DSWD, one last. Okay. So DSWD, 3,000 lang ang empleyado dyan. And they're serving 62 million Filipinos. Pag-isa ko na pa. So, ang regular employees na 3,000 lang. Okay? To serve 62 million. Okay? Yan, palagay ko, malaking problema yan. Ang contractuals yan, siguro mga 25,000. Marami dyan, 10 taon na nagtatrabaho. Dapat marami dyan, ma-regularize na rin. So these are some of the issues, some of the problems that the bureaucracy has kung kaya't hindi nagagastos na mabuti. So I think the Department of Budget and Management should focus on the management side also. Di ba? Na siguraduhin you have the right number of people in the right department and the type of workers we need in that particular department.
Opo. Sige po. Kung ito lang ho mga pahabol, I'm sure kayo po kasi nagmamadali na rin. Ano po ang take nyo dito po sa proposed budget po ng OVP, no? Office of the Vice President, kung saan po mayroong pang 500 million confidential fund na kasama at hinihingi nila?
Okay. I think the Vice President is concurrent Secretary of Education and that is one of the most difficult departments. At isa yan sa malaking problema ng department. Can you imagine our students at grade 3 cannot comprehend 90% based on the test, no? Okay, so having said that, so the president and the vice president who magkatambal yan chose the two very critical departments, agriculture, food for the body, and yung isa, food for the brain, Department of Education. Now, finally, fortunately, that the Office of the Vice President is given more respect, meaning to say that the budget for next year has been increased to 2.5 billion. Palagi, in the past, talagang mali yun nung panahon ni VP Lenny na ang budget niya 700 million lang. For the Office of the Vice President, elected nationally.
Opo.
I think
One-on-one.
confidential
Vice
funds
President.
yata ang
But
issue.
but Congressman, yung pong confidential fund, ito ho ang tinatanong
Yeah.
din. Kailangan
Correct.
ba ng OVP ng confidential fund? When you say confidential fund, as we know, ito po ay ginagamit usually for peace and order issues at mga pangangailangan po ng opisina. Go ahead, sir.
Alam mo, depende yan sa tiwala ng Pangulo. Ang Pangulo, may malaki ang tiwala sa Vice President at siguro yung Vice President humingi ng confidential fund for a particular purpose. At pumayag ang Pangulo. Depende yan sa tiwala ng Pangulo. Di ba?
Okay.
So, ako naman, dahil Vice President, halal ng taong bayan yan, hindi ko na-questionin yun.
Okay.
Okay lang ako dyan. For the 500 million na intelligence fund or confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President.
Opo. Sige po. Okay. Last. Congressman, gaano ka-crucial next year na makapag-deliver ang Marcos government ng at least ay maganda ng produkto noong food security program natin? Otherwise, kapag hindi nakapag-deliver next year, ano mangyayari po year after? What's your
It's always, yes. It's always better that the earlier we can deliver, the better. Di ba? So if we can increase productivity immediately, all the more. No, but I also believe it will take time, no, for agriculture. No, dahil yung problema diyan, tingin ko systemic. Hindi lang masusolusyonan yan ng dagdag ng pondo. Isang tulong yun, malaking tulong yung dagdag ng pondo. But take this into consideration. The average farm size today is 1 hectare. Tapos na tayo sa carp. Napamigay na natin halos 99%. So do we allow now for consolidation? Do we allow now the more investments from the private sector? Do we allow agricultural land that it can be now collateralized or mortgaged in the bank so that credit will flow to the agriculture sector? To me, those are the bigger issues, more systemic. 40 years na natin nasubukan yung carp. Did it increase our productivity? Did it reduce poverty incidence of our farmers? Did it increase the yield? Palagay ko, hindi. So, shouldn't we rethink our strategy after 40 years? Tapos na rin naman yung carp. Di ba? So, to me, that is more crucial. The earlier we decide on that, the better.
Okay. So, Congressman, Senator Sir, sana po sa ulitin as you go along sa
Dapat
budget
may part
deliberation
pa to,
po. Pag-usapan po natin to para po maintindihan ng taong bayan kung ano pong ginagawa ninyo at kung ba't ho kayo mabusisi sa budget. Po, sir.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat. Lord, thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you very much. Si Deputy Speaker and Batangas Rep, Ralph Recto.
6th District.
Yes.
Batangas.